Now you can't even leave your home. They see this as the greatest socialist power grab in American history and a gateway to statist and collectivism. I believe it's the greatest violation of individual rights in American history.
That's Charlie Kirk. He's a frequent guest on Trump's Twitter timeline and seems to have a direct line to the White House. He has recently urged members of Turning Point USA to launch a peaceful rebellion against governors to reopen their states amid the COVID-19 global pandemic. But who is he? I'm actress Shakina Nafak, and this is a story about Trump's favorite 20-something. Charlie Kirk was born in Arlington Heights, Illinois in 1993. He spent his formative years in a northern suburb of Chicago called Prospect Heights. Kirk spent his early years reading the works of Milton Friedman, a staunch capitalist and economist, quickly learning which party he subscribed to. He attended high school in the northwest suburb of Chicago at Wheeling High. In high school, Kirk volunteered for Mark Kirk's Senate campaign, making phone calls on his behalf. Despite their last names, the two share no relation, but might share a similar ideology. In 2005, long before Charlie went to work for him, Mark Kirk said he was okay with discrimination against young Arab males from terrorist-producing states. When his senior year rolled around, Kirk and a few buddies boycotted the school's cafeteria for raising the price of a cookie from a quarter to 50 cents. The school was taking advantage of capitalism, something Kirk deeply subscribes to until it affected him. He created a Facebook group for the cookie cause, where he wrote, "Together we can show the establishment the power of our generation. Cookies are the highlight of most school days, only to be doubled in price without our consultation? No! Enough of the manipulation! We must stand together in this fight. Fight the power!" The boycott worked, and the school sold cookies at 25 cents a pop. The same year, Kirk wrote a piece for Breitbart called "Liberal Bias Starts in Economic Textbooks." In his piece, Kirk argues that our classrooms are slowly becoming political lecture halls, with teachers being pawns to further the doctrine of liberalism and equality. That pesky, pesky equality.
As a senior in high school, in a public institution, indoctrination factory, whatever you want to call it, in Chicago, Illinois, I had teachers that openly were Marxists and socialists.
After Cookiegate and his published piece in Breitbart, Kirk had enough bona fides to land a speaking engagement at Benedictine University in Chicago, where his life would change forever. The college was holding a youth government day, and Charlie Kirk was one of the speakers, and he apparently perked up the young folks in the audience. So much so that he caught the eye of Bill Montgomery, a then-retired Greater Chicago area-based marketer almost twice Kirk's age. Montgomery advised Kirk he should skip college and then said, "I don't know you, but you need to start an organization to reach out to young people with your message." In 2012, just a month after they met, the two launched Turning Point USA, a nonprofit conservative activist organization with a heavy focus on students and waging political warfare on campuses. The organization paints itself as a grassroots movement, but that's a stretch considering it has raised millions of dollars from Republican mega donors, GOP politicians, and other wealthy right-wingers and organizations, including $50,000 from the foundation of the nation's largest private prison company, which also owns and operates ICE detention facilities. Kirk knows young Americans are one of the most diverse and progressive age groups in American history, which is why he and his deep pocket backers have launched over 800 chapters of Turning Point USA, also known as TP USA, on college and high school campuses across the country.
When students on college campuses wear those beautiful Make America Great Again hats, and I'll tell you, if you want to be a rebel on a college campus, wearing a Bernie Sanders shirt will get you thumbs up, high fives, and invites to all the coolest parties. You want to be a rebel, wear that hat on a college campus.
But long before Kirk wasn't getting invited to the coolest parties in town for donning a MAGA hat, he couldn't even imagine rocking one. In an interview with Wired in 2016, prior to Trump's nomination, Kirk said he is not the biggest Donald Trump fan in the world. He said Trump's potential presidency would make his goal harder. People are going to brand us and loop us in that bucket like, "Oh, you're the Donald Trump group. We're going to have to fight back against that."
I don't understand how he thinks he's going to bring the party together when in an interview with CNN he keeps on calling Ted Cruz Lion Ted.
Kirk is now the chairman of Turning Point USA's college campus arm called Students for Trump. He's become one of Trump's most ardent supporters and frequently sits down with the president and his family for discussions put on by Turning Point.
I want to thank my great friend, and he's a young friend. He's a pretty young guy, Charlie Kirk. I said, "How old are you, Charlie?"
Trump's favorite son, Don Jr., is also a fan of Kirk. There's a giant quote from Jr. on TPUSA's website. "I'm convinced that the work of Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk will win back the future of America." But with friends in high places comes a critical spotlight on the organization. In a New Yorker article by Jane Mayer, she spoke with former minority members of TPUSA's staff who talked about the widespread discrimination and racism going on at Kirk's organization. In one screenshot obtained by Mayer, a text message from TPUSA's former National Field Director, Crystal Clanton, to another TPUSA employee reads, "I hate black people. Like them all. I hate blacks. End of story." Kirk told The New Yorker, "Turning Point assessed the situation and took decisive action within 72 hours of being made aware of the issue, and Clanton resigned shortly after. But Kirk once claimed that Clanton was the best hire they ever made, and that America needs more people like her." Hired in her place was a woman who once tweeted, "If you're a race other than white, I promise to make racist jokes toward you," and tweeted out the N-word multiple times. TPUSA reportedly cut ties with her too. In another instance, Mayer spoke to the only black field director who claimed she and the other black recruits she introduced to the organization were disinvited from TPUSA's annual student summit. She was fired on Martin Luther King Day. The president of the University of Las Vegas's chapter of TPUSA was fired after video footage surfaced online of him giving the alt-right okay hand signal while his friend screams, "White power, fuck, N-words." TPUSA's director for high school outreach resigned amid the leaking of documents where he wrote the N-word multiple times and said he was going to make a map of Stoneman Douglas High School in the shooting video game Counter-Strike and practice.
On behalf of my entire administration, thank you to everyone at Turning Point USA's Teen Student Action Summit.
While Kirk has seemingly cut ties with all of these folks, it's revealing that explicitly racist people flock to him and his organization. It might be because of tweets like this from the man himself. "It would take 40 years worth of blacks killed by cops to equal the number of black killed by other blacks in 1 year." Whatever you think of Kirk, he seems to understand the politics of college students, despite never really attending college himself. If Trump wins re-election, it won't be without the help from Kirk and the deep pockets of his quote-unquote movement. A movement in part conceived from a fight for affordable cookies in Kirk's high school. It's just unclear if he has the right recipe to transform the future of America.